Welcome, camp leaders. Welcome to the Investigator Club Get Ready for Kindergarten Summer Camp Training. I'm going to be going over the materials and the teacher guide for the summer camp curriculum and reviewing the Investigator Club digital platform with you today. There will be several times that I will recommend that you pause the webinar and take some time to review or interact with the materials, and then rejoin the recording when you are ready to resume your training. I hope you are excited and ready to learn all about the summer program. Let's get started. I want you to think back to childhood memories of camps, of days with friends, summer explorations, and of the joy and wonder that you felt. We want to capture that for our children as they go to camp with the Investigator Club. Children are natural investigators and explorers, and camp is a fantastic backdrop to support that. As their camp counselors, you are going to facilitate and nurture their explorations, their learning, and their fun. The Get Ready for Kindergarten Summer School program is going to provide you with everything you need to create that fun and impactful summer for both you and your children. We will be using the Campfire for our opening and closing meeting time with the kids during camp. And you will see suggestions in your teacher guide for ways to create your campfire for everyone to gather around for your summer camp. It will be a signal for our gathering and meeting place, just as it was and is at campsites. I want to briefly introduce the characters to you, going clockwise around your screen. We have Dilly Gator, we have Great Annie Lou, Manny Salamander, Little Bruno Busby, Chuck Wood, JT Gator, and Rosalita Sausalita. And all of you will be getting to know them better soon. When you have the chance to dive into the characters in an activity that I'm going to be offering you in a few minutes, you're going to learn more about where each of them lives, about their distinct personalities and interests, and their curriculum or content connections. But right now, I do want to share with you the Investigator theme song, which tells the story of how the Investigator Club started.
It was in Circle Forest that Dilly and JT went on a hike with Auntie to see what they could see. They came upon an oak tree. Its trunk was big and round. It looked just like a giant stretched up from the ground.
Let's build a tree house,
said Dilly to JT. So Dilly gathered all her friends to build one in that tree. It took some time to build it, but when the house was done, they built a very special place, a place for lots of fun. Yes, that's our Dilly Gator. She is great. She can find and think and make and do and investigate. They climbed the treehouse ladder, they turned to look below. There were so many things to see and places they could go. Then a great idea came to young Miss Dilly Gator. What this world could use is
6
investigators!
Welcome to our clubhouse,
said Dilly to her friends.
We'll learn about this big wide world, our mission never ends.
So come and join the club today with Dilly and JT. Let's investigate our world, there's so much here to see. Yes, that's our Dilly Gator. She is great. She can find and think and make and do and investigate. She can find and think and make and do and investigate. She can find and think and make and do and investigate.
So that's just a really fun song that again tells you how the Investigator Club got started. And I do want to note for you that the theme song and the story in the lap book, Adventure in Circle Forest, are essentially the same. Again, just that story of the beginnings, and a great way to introduce everyone to the Investigator Club. Now, any good camper is going to tell you that the first step is preparing your gear. And so we are going to start off by preparing our gear, which really means for us reviewing the various components of the curriculum, both the hard copy materials and reviewing the digital platform. We're going to start with the hard copy curriculum components. I want to start with the Dilly and Friends lap books. I think it's really important to start with these because these books introduce the Investigator Club characters to everyone so well. Each book sort of features a different member of the club and lets you learn all about them. In addition, each book presents a very relatable life challenge that the characters are going through and that our preschoolers can really understand and talk about. So there's just a strong social emotional learning component. And these lap books are just so rich and they lend themselves to being read and reread many times. And don't forget about the stick puppets for each character that you can use as well. The other books that you have in your kits are the Bruno's Buzz nonfiction readers. You have the Mud Pies and the shopping list title. You have 6 of each title so that you can use them in small group for language and literacy learning. You also have the Alphabet Show picture book or the Alphabet Big Book in Spanish that you will use throughout camp to reinforce letter and phonological awareness. Now, I do want to note that even though the summer program only addresses 2 of the lap books and Bruno's Buzz nonfiction readers in your teacher guide, you have received all 7 of the lap books and you have access to all of the Bruno books on the digital platform that we're going to look at. You also have the ABC cards, which are letter cards with upper and lowercase letters, as well as sign language. And you have Dilly's alphabet cards or the Alphabet Big Book if you're implementing the Spanish version. There are not separate alphabet cards for Spanish, but you have access to all of these materials in your curriculum. The other major component in your hard copy items are the math materials. So the kits have foam numbers, they have MathLink cubes, foam dot dice, pet counters, tanagrams, and one of my personal favorites is that child-friendly measuring tape, which is just fabulous. And of course, in addition to all these manipulatives, you have those great character stick puppets that I already mentioned. So now we're going to go ahead and move on to that digital platform and how you access all the materials there. So when you first go to the site, you're going to see a registration screen. And so it's going to, when you go to that registration screen, it is going to look like this. And you will get all of the information about how to log on to that, the web address for that from your program administrator. And when you get to this screen, the first thing you will do is create your profile. So you select your role from the drop-down menu. Most of you will be teacher, but select whatever is most appropriate. You enter your first and your last name, enter your organization and your email that you want to have associated with this profile. For the user code, you will see your program administrator. They will have that as part of their materials that they got when they got all of the curriculum. Your phone number is completely optional. You can put it in. You don't have to put it in. Create your own password. And of course, you enter it twice just to confirm it. And once you have all of that, you'll click Let's Go. Now, I've already created my profile, so I simply click on I have a login. And it takes me straight to the login page. So once you've created your profile, you'll come straight to the login page and put in the email that you've associated with it, enter your password. And you can tell it to remember you. And of course, if you ever forget your password, you just click on the forgot password and it will help you reset it. But once you've entered your email and password, you simply click Let's Go. And it brings you to the welcome page for the Investigator Club digital platform. So when you get here, the first thing you will always do is select Choose a Program. And there's a drop-down menu. And you can see you've got the pre-kindergarten program in English, Spanish, or dual language. Just for Threes is also available in English, Spanish, or dual language, and you also have a professional development site. So we're going to go to the pre-kindergarten dual language because I want to show you all sorts of resources. And you can see when we click on that page, we have access to 30 pages of materials, of resources. Now, you can filter that down by using any one of these preset filter tabs. Investigation, which is basically listing all the different investigation topics. Investigation resources are specific resources associated with each investigation. System resources are resources that kind of apply across all the investigation topics. And assessment and intervention is what it sounds like, assessment and intervention. You can also put in a custom filter, search by item, which is what we're going to do because we want to filter by the Get Ready for Kindergarten or the summer program. So when we put that in, you can see now we have 8 pages of resources because we've cut it down to just the resources that are in both English and Spanish, the dual language for summer. So I can continue to filter this more. So for example, if I wanted to just look at investigation resources, say for example, the Bruno's Buzz nonfiction readers, I can filter, I could type in Bruno, or I can just use the drop down and select that. And you'll remember I shared with you, you get 2 titles of the Bruno's nonfiction readers in your hard copies, but on the digital platform, you have access to all of them, okay? So you can see they all come up and you would be able to go through the pages and see everything. Now, once I've looked at the nonfiction readers, maybe I want to go back and look at additional resources. I can clear this filter by just simply clicking the little X, remove the filter, and now I'm back to all 8 pages, okay? So one of the things you definitely need from the digital platform is your teacher's guide. So that's available in the system resources. And I can filter by typing in the title of Get Ready for Kindergarten. You see Summer School Teacher Guide comes up. I click on that, and there's my teacher guide. So when your resources are on the screen, there are a couple of ways you can access them. The little white box is a checkbox. If you check that, it immediately puts the item in your cart and you can download it, okay? You can check as many items as you want and keep filling your cart up. It will download everything as a zip file, and then you can have it on your device. I may decide I don't actually want that in my cart. If I uncheck it, my cart's empty. I can also clear my cart by just hitting clear cart. I might decide that instead of downloading it, I just want to look at it. And then I use the eye icon to preview it. And so it pops up on my screen. And there we have the whole teacher guide, and you can scroll through and see all the pages. Now from the preview screen, you can also download it or print it. So you have lots of options once you've previewed it. Okay. And again, when I'm done with this, I can remove this filter item and go back to everything that is available for the summer program. So far we've looked at one file format. We've seen PDF file formats. There are also audio files which are available on the digital platform. So if we look at the playlist, the Dilly's Music and Movement playlist, that is available. Again, we could download it. We could click it and download it, or we could preview it. If you download it and you have it on your device, you can play the music anytime from your device that you've downloaded it on. But if you want to, you can always just access it from the digital platform. And from here, you can just play a song. And there you get the idea, okay? So we've got the PDFs, we've got the audios. We also have videos. You won't see videos so much in your curriculum materials. For those, you will need to go to your professional development site. So for that, I actually need to come out of, I need to reset all of the filters and go to, if you remember, all of our programs here, professional development is one of our programs. So I select professional development, and here you'll see videos that support your professional development, your growth as an early childhood educator. You'll also see articles. You'll see lots of different resources here that you can use. So again, that is there for you to access. And now we're going to go back to our pre-kindergarten dual language. Again, we've got all 30 pages, and I'm going to filter back down to our summer program. And I'm going to show you the last file format that we have, which is our interactive Flapboard. So we have a couple of different Flapboards, and we're going to look at our interactive Flapboard stories in a little bit. But right now, I'm going to show you our interactive alphabet Flapboard. So Flapboards cannot be downloaded. These are the one format that cannot be downloaded because of the interactive nature of them. They have to be on the platform to work. So you can preview them. So again, you click the little preview icon. And when it opens up, you have multiple activities. You have your settings icon, which is the blue gear, which would allow you to return to the dashboard to log out altogether. You can also turn the sound off. I like to leave the sound on because the sound is fun. Now, all these activities are going to run pretty much the same way. I'm just going to go through one with you because once you understand one, you understand them all. Now, the alphabet Flapboard is designed to align with the Dilly's alphabet show picture book that you are using to, again, teach the letter and alphabet and phonemic awareness. So you will see this is exactly like the stage that you see in that story, and the props and costumes and things that you're going to see all align with that. And it is designed for you to sit down and play with a small group of children, one-on-one. You can play it with the whole class. It's completely up to you how you are going to use it. And you may use it, you'll probably use it in a whole variety of ways. But it starts off with you setting it up by picking props. And so you select a prop and it pops in there. You may double click and end up, if you make a mistake, you just use the undo button and then you correct it. So once you've got your props in place, you close the flaps, and then you're ready to sit down with the kids and talk with them and talk about, what props are there and what's going on. And then you can open your flaps and you are ready to play. You have the choice of using uppercase or lowercase letters, whatever you're focusing on with your kids at the time. Okay, and then you talk with the kids and ask them to tell you what letter they would like to match with what prop. And this is a click and stick, not a drag and drop. You'll figure that out quickly enough when you're using it. You just click and let go and then move the mouse. But if the kids give you an incorrect response, you can go ahead and move it where they told you to and try to stay in there. It won't work. It'll bounce it back out because it's self-correcting. And then the kids can try again, and you drag it over and then stick it in there, and now it works. And then you select the next one, drag it over and stick it in there. And yay! Happy celebration sound. And then you're ready to play another game, and you can click on play another game, or you can click on the redo. Either one will set you up for playing another game, and then you just pick new props and start all over again. So again, they all work essentially the same way, and this is just a really, again, a fun way to interact with your kids and reinforce the skills that we are talking about with letter awareness and phonemic awareness. Okay, so that is a quick run through of the digital platform. So I want to come back over to my other slide, and I want to say this is probably a good time for you to stop the video. You want to take some time to explore the digital platform, get in there, play with the different filters, play with that interactive alphabet Flapboard, explore the resources that are in there. If you haven't had a chance to set up your profile, obviously you're going to want to set up your profile first, but just get in there and really start to get comfortable and see what kinds of things are in there and play around a little bit with it. Once you've had a few minutes to do that, obviously you're going to spend more time as the summer goes by, but you want to get a little bit of familiarity going. Take a few minutes, and then when you're ready, come on back and restart the video. So I hope everyone's had a chance to explore a little bit, and we are going to go ahead and start talking about planning for your summer. Of course, we all know that the best summer camps are fun, and we really know that children learn best when they are having fun. So we want to keep the fun at the heart of our Get Ready for Kindergarten summer camp. Coming back to our picture of the campfire, I asked you to think about those fond childhood memories. And I really encourage you to keep that connection to your inner 4-year-old as you are planning, preparing, and delivering this program. The best camp counselors are all just a little bit kid. So a few things to remember about this program. It is a flexible program. It can be implemented as a full day program, a half day program, even an extended day program. And the lesson plans, as you look through the teacher guide, you will see they are structured by days, as in day 1, day 2, day 3, etc. They're not tied to a Monday to Friday week. And that's very intentional. It's to give you flexibility. You can start on Wednesday. You can start on whatever day works for you. The important thing is to go in order as the lessons build on one another and the instruction builds on one another. But you're not tied to, oh, I have to get 5 days in, I have to get these 5 days in this week. And that's really important to remember whenever we get to example, the July 4th holiday week. So you've got that flexibility to move along and just keep building as you go. Also, it's a summer program. It's designed to have as much outside time as you can have. You're going to see in many of the lesson components, you're going to see things marked as outdoor options. Get those kids outside, get them in the fresh air, get them stretching and exploring and moving. Also, differentiated instruction is built in with lots of suggestions throughout the teacher's guide, and we'll look a little bit more closely at those in a bit. Observation and assessment is also embedded with suggestions throughout the teacher guide to support you with that very important component of instruction. So planning is key. On page 6 of your teacher's guide, it says a good camp counselor is always prepared. A good teacher is always prepared as well. You want to make sure that you're always taking time to look ahead, to see what's coming, and that you're making the necessary preparations. I always talk about the importance of quality plans and learning objectives with a travel analogy. If we don't create plans and identify our learning goals, it's kind of like taking a trip with no real destination or map or having a GPS with you. You will eventually end up somewhere, but will it be somewhere you actually wanted to go? And who knows how long it will actually take you to arrive. So proper planning keeps you on the trails. Okay, it keeps you focused, it keeps you in the right direction, and it keeps you in a timely manner. Okay, efficient. Your teacher guide has everything you need for that proper planning, for that efficient, effective instruction. So, camp counselors, it is time to walk through your teacher guide. Now, we're really going to do just a quick walkthrough to help you become familiar with the teacher's guide. I recommend that you really just kind of follow along as I share screenshots of various pages, various sections, and then you can take a deeper dive after the training. Again, I will suggest a few times for you to pause the webinar and take a deeper dive during this training as well. So I'm going to be starting on page 2, where you see you have your table of contents. Then we're going to jump on to page 6. This is a section on how to use the teacher guide. Now, that's a great place for you to go back to as a refresher after today. On page 11, you're going to see some really great information for you if your summer program is actually longer than the 20 days of the Get Ready for Kindergarten curriculum. It has suggestions for additional investigations, for creating your own extensions, and for using the project approach to just extend the learning this summer. Some other ways to extend the program include using the digital guides on that digital platform. There are guides there such as the Investigate Math Activity Guide. There's the STEAM and Literacy Guide. There are just a lot of resources on that digital platform that can help you go deeper in your learning and wider in your learning with your children. So take advantage of the resources that are there to, again, expand the learning and extend your summer program if you need the beyond those 20 days. Then we come to pages 12 to 15. This is the Camp at a Glance section. So this is really great for giving us an overview of the curriculum and also really great for advanced planning. So it is, as it says, just a glance of what each day looks like. You can see that it gives you the name of the activity. It gives you the curricular areas for activities. It gives you the page numbers for the more extensive details about the activities. And it also is where you start to see that indication of whether or not it has that outdoor option. So really take advantage of this for, again, that look ahead that we talked about, for that proper planning, that planning ahead, and just getting a sense of where you're going with your camp planning. Now, when we get to page 16, we're into the weeks of camp. And each week starts with a list and description of the learning centers. Now, I have to say, this is one of my favorite parts of the Investigator Club curriculum because it is just so important to rotate learning centers. But I also think it becomes very time consuming and kind of challenging to keep up with relevant and appropriate materials and activities to add to centers. But Investigator Club does it for us. They have learning center ideas for every week, and they are easy. Now, do you need to use every single idea? No, but you have at least 4 ideas to choose from each week. So you can use as many as you can to create a connection in your learning centers to what you are studying in your investigation. And in addition to that, on the digital platform, you have 35 Learning Center cards that are available for you. Again, you just need to search in the filter for Learning Center cards, and you're going to find them. They're available in Spanish and English. So you have lots and lots of Learning Center ideas to help, again, extend that learning in a very important part of your classroom. So a great, great resource for you. Now, page 18, we're on to our day 1, open camp. This is such an important day because it really sets the tone for the whole investigation, where we're going for the summer. And so this is where we introduce the kids to all the investigators. If you look on page 19, you will see descriptions of all of the club members. Remember, I introduced them to you just by name, but they do all have very distinct personalities and interests, and that was very intentional. The goal is that the children in your program, who also have very distinct personalities and interests, will connect to an aspect, an interest, a personality trait, something specific about one or more of the characters. You'll also note that each character has a specific content connection listed, and you can use these characters throughout your instruction to reinforce skills, concepts, and ideas as you're teaching. So this is a good time to pause the webinar and think about possible ways to introduce the characters and the puppets to your children. Remember, I said I was going to give you an activity to do. So if you look at pages 18 to 19 in your teacher guide as a reference, you can start kind of planning how you are going to begin this first day. And remember, the work that you're doing right now is going to be the basis of the planning that you are actually doing for that first day of camp. So this is a good point to stop the recording and look at your materials and start to give a little bit of thought as to how that introduction is going to go. Okay, so hopefully everybody had a chance to look a little bit at that and start to get a little bit excited about how you're going to help your kids meet these characters they're going to be interacting with all summer. So we now want to jump into the daily lesson planning. Every day has the same basic structure and continuity. The only exception is that day 1, it has that extra component for opening camp. And that's the part we just talked about, where you're going to introduce all the characters. After that, everything's very, very consistent and very routine, which is so important for our little ones. All of our days are going to start and end around a campfire, as I mentioned before. So on page 6 of your teacher guide, you do have some suggestions for creating your campfire. You know, the more you can create a camp atmosphere, you know, the more fun everyone will have, the more invested everyone will be in this whole summer camp, the investigations, just the whole experience that you are trying to create for them. We have some pictures here of what some programs have done to kind of help create their camp feeling. over the summer. So you see some different tents that have been made in different ways. So we just encourage you to really get creative, let your personality, your kids' personality really flow. And again, make this your camp, make it your kids' camp experience. So have fun with it. So as I already said, this is a flexible curriculum, but every lesson does follow a 4-step structure. If you look on page 18 at day 1, you can see the 4 steps modeled in what we call the explicit lesson. The 4 steps shown are set the stage, get started, do the activity, and the activity is something like, tell the story, and then make connections. So again, these 4 steps are used throughout every week and every lesson. I want to go into a little bit more detail with these steps, kind of the meaning, the purpose, the value of each step. Set the stage is really designed to tap into prior knowledge for your children. And it's creating that foundation for each part of learning that we're doing. Kind of think of this as a combination of that formative assessment where you're determining kind of the baseline knowledge, and also I like to call it priming the pump, where you're getting everyone really excited for what is to come. Then we move into getting started. And this is where you start asking those really engaging questions. Think of it as a continuation of that getting everyone excited, but now you're really pulling them into the action and you're engaging them into that thinking and discussion process. And then we move into the do the activity. This is always some kind of hands-on engaging experience. We know that everyone, but most especially our young children, learn by doing. Doing is the most effective learning strategy. And so we need to get them up and moving. Young children have to move very regularly. And so that's the value of the do stage. Children are not passive learners, they are active learners. Get them active. And then we move on to making connections. This is where you connect skills and our vocabulary, whatever you've been teaching them, you connect it to the real world or to a previous learning activity. I talk about the stickiness of learning. It's where you make it stick. If we don't wrap up by making connections, by sticking it to something else that's relevant, the learning can really get lost and it can end up being just an activity that we did instead of a true learning experience. Now, you only have one explicit lesson in your teacher guide that's everything spelled out. After that, it's up to you. You're not going to see all 4 steps spelled out in the rest of the teacher guide. But don't forget, these are critically important for you to include in your planning and thinking as you approach each of the learning activities with your children. The 4 steps that are modeled in the explicit lesson are the steps that really bring learning alive for your children. So again, the rest of the lessons do spell out objectives, materials, they spell out a brief guide, but it's up to you to translate the material into the 4 steps and really, again, bring it alive, make it meaningful for your children. These are what make the learning active learning. So, and please don't forget, even in whole group learning, there's still a do the activity, something that's hands-on or active, engaging, okay? Active is the primary way preschoolers learn. We all know that. So we never want to forget that in these steps. So again, this is another opportunity where you might want to stop the video and discuss your thoughts about the 4 steps with each other, the other folks that are watching the video with you. How have you used these types of steps in previous instruction? How do you see the steps building on each other in a learning activity? And what questions do you want to discuss with each other about implementing the 4 steps? So the next component in the lesson plans that we want to talk about is the interactive Flapboard, the stories. So we looked at the alphabet Flapboard, but now we're going to look at the stories, and these are so much fun. You'll be using them throughout the summer camp. So again, the Flapboards are found in the digital platform, and they also are going to use the 4 steps of instructional planning that set the stage, get started, do the activity, and make connections. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to our digital platform. And I'm going to, in the investigation resources, I'm going to filter by interactive Flapboard, and you'll see that for the summer, the one that comes up is Let's Investigate Flapboard. Again, I can't download this, I can only preview it. So when I open it up, I have the Flapboard here. You can also access the teacher guide that it is associated with in the school year curriculum, but we don't really need that right now. We just want to see the Flapboard. So when I click on the Flapboard, there are actually 3 different stories that the Flapboard can be used with, and you will use all of them, but we're going to look at, again, just one for right now. We're going to start with the investigation Flapboard. Again, you have the gears, same setting just as we had with the alphabet Flapboard. So I'm going to select the investigation Flapboard. And when I select that, again, we have a gear setting up here, which we can adjust sound and that sort of thing. The other important icon up here that I want to make sure you see is the script, because that is something you definitely have to have. The script is available in English and Spanish. I need English because I speak English. So I click on that, and again, it will open up, and I can, again, download or print from here, or I can keep it on a digital on the computer, whatever, if I'm using a tablet, a computer, a laptop. It depends on how you're using it. So some classrooms have the Flapboard, the digital Flapboard up on like a whiteboard or a smartboard kind of screen. And they also have the Flapboard open like on a laptop or a tablet. Some programs only have it on a computer and they want to print the script. You will figure out the flow, what works for you, okay? On the script, I want to call your attention to a few things. The yellow boxes are tips and things for you. So the key vocabulary, teaching tips on each. The Flapboard has 4 boards or 4 pages. So each board has different teaching tips to go with that board. On the actual script, the words in black are the story. The words in blue are your little tips, instructions like when to open the flap, when to kind of stop for questions, that sort of thing. The bottom of each board has in bold some additional questions that you want to ask before you turn the flap or turn the page, okay? So I'm going to go back to my Flapboard. One thing I would recommend is to hide this menu before you share the story, because then you see the whole screen come back. So with the Flapboard, your mouse moves around, and when it comes over a flap, and you see the flaps are marked with the little dotted dashes, when it comes over a flap, it moves from a mouse to a magnifying glass, and you just click on it, it zooms in and opens. You can zoom out by either clicking on the zoom out or clicking again on the magnifying glass, and it comes right back out. So I'm going to just model a little bit of the beginning of this story. So our story is Gone Investigating. Dilly Gator liked to get up early. So far, this day was the same as any other. Dilly crawled out of bed, got dressed, walked out of her bedroom, and tapped on her little brother's door to wake him for breakfast. Tap, tap, tap. There was no answer. She tapped again and then walked inside. What do you think she saw? And of course, I'd pause and ask for, the kids to make some suggestions and predictions, and we talk about that. And then I would come over and, I left my Flapboard open, but I would come over and I would open it, and then we would compare their predictions to what we actually see. And then I would come back to the big screen. JT Gator was missing. Dilly found a note on JT's desk and she read it out loud. Gone investigating, be back soon. I wonder what's so interesting, thought Dilly. I want to investigate too. Dilly went to find her brother. She walked along the sandy shore, looking high and low, low and high. Dilly saw many things along Triangle Beach, but she didn't see JT. What did she see? And here you'd stop and you'd have the kids look along the beach and talk about what all they're seeing, and then you'd continue on and then you get to the next flap and open that and zoom out. And then when you're ready, you would go on to the next page. So you just click on the little arrow at the bottom and it takes you to the next page. And you would again, go through the same process, moving through until you get through to the final page. And when you're all done, you can end your investigation. Okay, so it's very simple, very user-friendly. You won't have any problems with sharing your Flapboard stories with your kiddos. So again, this might be a time where you want to go ahead and pause and play with the Flapboards a little bit. And feel free to do that if you want to get in and experiment with those and look at the, play with the different story with the 3 different versions. Of course, for each story, you'll have a different script, and what's behind the flaps, the artwork behind the flaps will be a little bit different. But that is essentially the Flapboard stories. So moving on, we're going to talk about small groups and learning centers. On page 21 of the teacher guide, you will see your first small group. Again, you will want to use the 4 steps: set the stage, get started, do the activity, and make connections. That's the instructional format you're going to use throughout the summer program. Now, your small groups should be flexible, and they should change based on what you're teaching and on what the children need. You can use the assessment system, which we are going to talk about in just a little bit, to help you decide on your small groups. The summer camp program is designed with small groups and learning centers happening at the same time. The reason we have the 2 activities running at the same time is that these are both very hands-on and engaging parts of the day, and both centers and small groups provide very rich opportunities for the teachers to be interacting with and observing the children. Now, this requires really strong teamwork and communication among the educators in the room, but it's a really impactful portion of the day. The idea is that you create room for the student-directed learning in the centers. Remember the learning center ideas that are shared at the beginning of each week, as well as the center cards that are available on the digital platform. They can be used to guide student play and allow you to observe specific skills aligned with your learning objectives. But there's also still a lot of room for student choice in the centers. Then, while the children are in the centers, you can pull your small groups to work on the small group lesson. Small group and centers should be one of your longer blocks of time in your schedule so that you can rotate several small groups in and out and still give children plenty of center time. Don't forget to observe and document during this part of the day. And, we're going to talk more about that in a little bit. Now, on your first day of camp, you're also going to introduce your investigation station. And you'll do that during your first whole group, and you'll see information about that on page 22. Pages 118 and 119 are where you find all the directions for the full investigation station. It explains everything you need to know. Now, you're introducing the investigation station on day 1, but it extends for the entire length of the camp. It's this ongoing project that involves all the campers and allow them to explore, to experiment, to apply what they are learning throughout their entire camp experience. The investigation uses a preschool version of the scientific method. We break it down into 4 steps: look and ask, try it and try again, think about it, and make meaning. Now, this is all about inquiry-based learning, allowing the children to work through the topics and questions and discover the information and the answers. It's completely hands-on. So the 4 steps work like this. Look and ask. That's what it sounds like. You guide the children to ask questions, to form ideas and theories. Okay. Then you move into the try it and try again. This is, you support the children in getting the materials and beginning the experiment. It's the experiment stage. It's the doing. It can be lengthy. It can be messy. And I don't mean always literally messy, but it can be messy in that it can be messy for us. There's a lot of brain work that goes on for our preschoolers during this time. There's a lot of thought process, conceptual work that they are doing. And we have to be very thoughtful and intentional about how we scaffold and support that. Giving them just enough support, but not giving them answers. Because again, this is their job to figure out. And so we want them to do the solving. We don't want to jump in and solve for them. So that's messy for us, because how do we know, you got to constantly be watching to give just enough help, but not so much help that you're solving for them. Then we get into the next stage, which is to think about it. And some of this kind of overlaps, because the think about it is we're helping children document results and think or talk about what they're learning and reflecting. So that can be happening at the same time that they're experimenting sometimes. But the documenting piece is really important. Documenting can be children drawing pictures of what they're doing. It can be helping children take pictures of what they're doing. It can be children dictating to us and we're writing it down. But it adds a level of importance to their work, a level of seriousness to their work that shows the children that we are taking what they're doing just as seriously, and that the learning really has merit, it has a gravitas to it. So don't skip that documentation part, and then they have something to go back and reflect on. They're not going to remember from week to week the work that they're doing if we don't help them document it so that they have something to look back at. So that's a very important stage and a very important piece. And then again, the make meaning, and we've talked about the make meaning before. It's helping them connect what they're doing, what they're learning, to familiar information, things that they already understand or know, as well as connecting it to previous information. Again, it's that stickiness of learning. So again, all of this is described in detail in your teacher's manual. And you started on day one, but you're going to keep it accessible because they keep coming back, they keep working with it throughout the camp. So again, this is another time where you might want to stop the webinar and talk about the investigation station, these investigation steps, and just kind of think about how you see this all playing out and how you're going to lay this out physically in the room, in your classroom, how you're going to go through the steps, how you're going to help kids document. Just kind of start to talk some logistics. Okay, the next thing we want to talk about is the closing campfire. On page 23, you see the closing campfire. It's the final activity of the day. In addition, with each closing campfire, so in addition to closing our day out and closing it with the children, you're also going to see with each closing campfire box, you have a daily checkup box for you. That's there to remind you of the learning goals and the objectives for each part of the day. And it just helps you do kind of a quick formative assessment check. Ideally, you won't wait until the end of the day to answer all of the questions in that box. Ideally, you will use them to reflect after each part of the day. But in reality, some days are going to get away from you and you're not going to look at that box until the end of the day. At the very least, at the end of the day, use them to reflect on your camper's progress. But hopefully some days you'll get to look at that box throughout the day as well. The answers to these questions can help you guide your decisions about how to group campers for the small groups moving forward. It helps you kind of reflect on what do I need to adjust in my planning for tomorrow, what topics need to be revisited, what topics do I need to go deeper with, what topics were the kids really excited about, and I want to just go a little bit wider, what do I want to do more with? So it just gives you a good, again, formative assessment check of where are things and where are we going and what do we need to do more with. So this is a good time for us to stop and highlight some sidebar notations in your teacher guide. These are all there to support you as teachers. As you flip through the pages, or if you're scrolling through the digital version, you should notice that there are boxes for a variety of different tips and supports. You will see that there are a lot of different categories. There are things for Spanish vocabulary. There are things about research, kind of providing the why behind the what for many of the activities. There are assessment reminders, just things, like don't forget to document because you're seeing this, or don't forget to use the assessment system because there is something connected to the assessment system. Things for English learners. You always see Rosalita's picture whenever there's an English learner. Things about transition times, differentiation for if you have a kinesthetic learner or an auditory learner or somebody that's ready for advanced, that challenge. Management for classroom management tips, safety. Woodchuck's always in. I'm sorry, Chuck Wood is always there for the safety pictures because he's our safety guy. He's always on top of that. So again, these tips are just there to support you and to help you to make things easier for you as you go through your summer. So I've mentioned the assessment system a couple of times, and so we want to dive a little bit deeper into that. As educators, we're constantly involved in a cycle of observation, assessment, planning, implementing instruction. The stages or phases of that cycle, they're not distinct. They're constantly overlapping each other because we always need to ask ourselves, how do we know how and where to lead a child if we don't know what that child can do? If we are teaching without assessing, we're really just presenting a series of activities for the sake of keeping busy. That's not effective. We need to be intentional. We need to know where our children are. We need to know what their needs are in order to be effective educators. So the Get Ready for Kindergarten program comes with an assessment. It comes with lots of supports included to help us in this very critical process in this cycle. We've already mentioned a lot of them, but we're going to go a little bit deeper into that. So again, those sidebar notations that we talked about are there. They're very helpful. Again, reminders to stop and assess children's progress, just to write down what we're seeing. We're always watching our kids. We're always noticing, but we don't always remember to write it down. And then when the time comes to reflect, we're like, okay, no, wait, what exactly did I see? So that reminder to just write it down can be very, very powerful. Again, that daily checkup box with those questions, just to that daily reflection of where are they in each of those different areas can be very, very helpful. And again, just making a quick note about things so that, I know I thought about this on Monday, but now it's Friday and where was I, or where was that child? Just again, that note to just jot down in just my own crazy little shorthand so that I know what's going on. Very, very important. In addition, there is an assessment checklist. It's pages 112 to 117. It includes all of the targeted learning skills across the 10 developmental areas that are included in the curriculum. So for every skill, you can rate the child's performance as not yet demonstrated with an NY, a D for developing, or an S for secure. The child is readily or consistently demonstrating the skill. Now, I do have to share with you, I recommend that anytime you're using a checklist, you don't actually use check marks. What I recommend is you put in dates in the boxes. That way, when you go back to reassess at a later date, so for example, if a child was in the not yet demonstrating column at the beginning of your summer camp, you put that date, and then 2 weeks later, you go back and now they're developing, and then 2 weeks later you go back and now they're secure. You can see that progress. You can see how long the time span between the growth or the progress. It's much more informative if you have actual dates in there rather than check marks. So that is my personal recommendation to you. That's a personal preference for me when I use checklists. Another tool that is very helpful to you and that you really need to be aware of is located on the digital platform. It's the anecdotal note form. So you would go to the pre-kindergarten program and you would, again, in that assessment section filter, you would look for the anecdotal note form, and you can see it right there on the screen. And it is actually a writable PDF. So you can you can print it up and write on a piece of paper, but you can use it on the computer. If you download it, it's a writable PDF. And so you can just put your notes right into it on the computer. So you can save a note form for each child and build on it from there. So really handy and very flexible in the way that you use that particular tool. I also want to talk about family engagement. We all know how important it is to get to know our children and our families. We want to form that really strong, positive relationship from the very beginning with the entire family for a lot of reasons. Research is really clear on the benefits of family engagement for young children and their learning. We know how much that increases the level of success for our children. So there are several resources on the digital platform that you may want to share with your families. For example, you could print out an oral language card or a vocab card, even print out a Bruno book to send home for families to use to do an activity together to extend on the learning that you are doing in your program. There are also additional family book packs with Dilly and Friends Little Books or Bruno Buzz nonfiction readers that can be purchased separately. We also have a family investigation night. It's a fun way to support family engagement and to help families build a connection to what is going on at camp. Family investigations are really similar to the investigation stations, but they're designed to be completed in one evening rather than over, the course of the entire camp. And they're designed to be shared with family members. So there's a family letter that's already prepared for you in the teacher guide. It's available in both English and Spanish. You find it on pages 110 and 111. So you can use it exactly as it is, or you can use it as a template to create your own version, your own take on that letter. The investigation is going to follow that inquiry-based learning model with those 4 steps: look and ask, try and try again, think about it, and make meaning. So the families are going to understand the process that their children are learning, and then they're going to take part in it with you. You can schedule the family investigation at any point within the camp schedule that works for you and your program. Some people like to do it at the very beginning. Some people like to do it at the very end as kind of a culminating celebration. And some people like to do it somewhere in the middle. Whatever fits you. Now, you'll notice in the family letter, there's a place to ask families to bring some donations to help make the wagon wash a success. But of course, some programs don't like to ask donations. You can leave that off. Again, it's totally flexible. But the key thing to remember with all investigations is that the process of the investigation is the focus, not the product. That means that just going through the process, just doing the steps, just doing the investigation, the experiment, the experience, that is a success. Something is learned just from the attempt, just from working through the different steps. Meaning can be made regardless of what the final outcome turns out to be. And that's a really important lesson for the children to learn and for the families to learn. You also want to remember when it comes to family engagement, there's a very simple tip found on page 8 of your teacher guide that's always going to help improve family engagement. Meet the campers' family members and learn their names. It's so much better to greet someone by their name than by saying mom or dad, which is awfully generic. And in today's world, it might not even be accurate. So just a good little tip to help you out. So that is our walkthrough of Let's Get Ready for Kindergarten Summer Camp. Thank you so much for participating in today's Get Ready for Kindergarten Implementation Training by Robert Leslie Publishing. I hope that you are excited to dig deeper into your teacher guides and the digital platform, and I wish you all great success and much fun in your summer camp. Please enjoy exploring your new curriculum and have fun investigating and learning with your children. Thank you.